Hello everybody, today we're going to talk all about Quant Network QNT token. First of all, we're going to discuss the price analysis of QNT. Then we're going to shift gears into knowing what exactly Quant Network is, the fundamentals, the core concepts, the tokenomics, and the team. And we're going to shift from there to knowing why should you buy QNT, and lastly, an optimistic price prediction for the Quant token. So let's get started. Welcome to Crypto by Sahar. In this channel, I recommend some of the underrated cryptocurrencies for life-changing gains. So if you love making money and cryptocurrencies, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit the bell icon so you're constantly updated in my videos. Remember, the giveaway for 1,000 MEX tokens, my exchange tokens, is still live. All you have to do is like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and follow the rest of the steps in the video description. First of all, let's discuss the price analysis of QNT token. Today, at 1st July 2021, it's worth 168 at this point in time, and it got up from 126, $128 till a high as 174, $175. So this is almost 30% plus gain in a single day, and sitting at 2 billion in market cap at the moment, with volume growing with increasing time. It's currently 98 million. Dollars. We're going to cover the circulating supply and tokenomics in the later part of the video, but what's more important is to know that it has done almost 100x since 3 years. So all-time low was 0.16 in August 23rd, 2018, and it has done more than 109 times since then. So it has exploded exponentially, right? And currently it was listed recently in Coinbase and Binance, so there's like a huge amount of liquidity coming into it. So this is exponentially exploding, doing multiple breakouts at this point of time. But if you're trying to get into it as a long-term investor, for example, you should not be FOMOing right now. You should look at some of the levels that you could think to get into. So let's dive deeper into the chart. And if we focus only on the chart, so there were 42 days of consolidation in Quant, where we saw this level ranging somewhere in an approximate of 66 till 100. And there was price action. It went below that, but it did not go above 100. And recently, past few days earlier, it crossed this $100 threshold, then 124. Like, both of these levels were broken in a single day, and then a bit of a consolidation for 2 days, and then again another breakout on 148 plus, ranging 175. So you should not be totally FOMOing into it and buying right now. You should always look at some patient levels, some supports that are backed by previous candles. So for now, the daily chart I have is on KuCoin, because Binance is going to show a much lower time frame grain, because it's currently listed and there's not much data into it. So these are the two levels that if I want to invest into it, I would at least wait for these levels to hit, at least around 0.5 Fibonacci, which is $125, $127 range. And then if it goes even below that, let's say this $95, $100, it's not going to go as quick as you think. It might take a couple of months or maybe a couple of weeks, but this is also possible, right? Because it was an intense breakout, and usually you see some cool off period where it's going to settle off in some range and fall below, for example, follow a downward trend, right? Or consolidate. So that should be your point of entry, not right now. If you're trading, then that's perfect. You can get in, trade some money, and get out. No questions asked. But if you're a long-term investor like me, then these are the two levels that I'll look at. This area of 0.6, 0.5, and it could also happen that it bounces off from 0.38 Fibonacci, because right now there's not much data to support this. So it's still a risky time to pick as an investor for long-term holding. So these two levels are one of the golden levels that I think could be worth to look at. If it goes down below this 0.38 level, which is 150 and 48, then these two levels are pretty important to look at and buy. Otherwise, it could happen that it bounces off from this 148 back into this 148 to 177 region. So you'll have to wait and see what happens, because it's like everybody's following into it, right? So just watch out, and if you're trading, make sure you have proper stop losses, because it's very volatile. So what exactly is Quant Network and why people are FOMOing about it? So let's get started. So the main idea of Quant Network is to allow universal interoperability between all types of blockchains, right? And that is possible via their Overledger OS. There are two things in Quant Network that needs focus. First of all is the Overledger OS and the Overledger network, which is the second thing. So Overledger network is more like connecting multiple backend technologies, for example, payment APIs, blockchains, enterprise blockchains, banking APIs, IoT APIs. They're all like backend stuff, and they are connecting these Overledger. This Overledger network is connecting them via Overledger gateway, and each Overledger gateway will have gateway operators that are helping to run that Overledger gateway, and then through this network, the multi-chain DApp, which we're going to cover in a bit, is accessing all of this entire network of different blockchains and APIs through Overledger OS. So you can say they're providing two things: Overledger OS to help connect the entire blockchain interoperable network to the applications, the front end that needs it. So the Overledger is a bridge to all the you can say the TCP/IP of blockchain, right? Everything that's connected, everything that could be made interoperable, just like a TCP/IP network that you can go in from one place to the other at any fraction of a second, right? So it's connecting like that in a TCP/IP fashion, like you can connect to anything, but also providing an OS on top of it that can easily leverage this interoperable technology to provide to the multi-chain DApps that are running on top of multiple blockchains, right? So it is serving two purposes. One is to provide a blockchain OS, much as you would want to have a Windows or Mac in your laptop, right? So that's number one. And then second, it's like providing an entire network, like a TCP/IP network or routers, right? That are flowing information from different endpoints, different types of servers, all of that. So you can imagine that this is very big for the financial space and crypto space. So this is the overview of what Quant is doing with respect to its Overledger OS and Overledger network, that is allowing the multi-chain DApps to run on multiple blockchains at a single time. So that's the overall idea of Quant Network. And let's dive a bit deeper into what QNT is providing in terms of the multi-chain DApps, right? So first of all, what is MApps? MApps are multi-chain DApps, which are allowing to build multiple blockchain-based app in a single place, right? You can access all the blockchains in a single app. Now, a single MAP involves multiple things: a front end, which you see, for example, an app, an API that helps doing it on the back end. Then there's treaty contracts, which I'm going to skip, and then blockchains, multiple blockchains. So an MAP looks more like this, where there's a front end, an API, and an Overledger smart contract that connects all of the blockchains. So this entire thing makes up an MAP, and those MAPs were powered by this Overledger OS and this Overledger network. So this is all possible because of Quant. So they came into being around 2015. They were found in 2015, and then in 2018 we saw this pump starting in, and then since then it's just an increasing trend. All right, enough of the price. So for what is Quant? So it does not have a blockchain of itself. It's just a token. QNT is just a token, and Overledger OS is not a blockchain, and Overledger network is not a blockchain itself. It's connecting all the blockchains and APIs, and Overledger OS is helping to do that and make it accessible to the multi-chain apps, but it's not a blockchain in itself. QNT token is just a token on the blockchain, an ERC20 token that is utilized for three things. First of all, payment for the network resources. So the people who are using the network that are allowing multiple services, for example, to businesses, right? Or different endpoints, allowing different APIs to flow. So to pay for those resources, you use QNT. You can also stake your QNTs. If, for example, you're paying, you can also stake them, but it's not currently introduced. They will be introducing staking properly in future. And then the licensing fees, for example, if you're using Overledger Enterprise, you're using multiple resources, then the licensing fees are paid, and also Quant QNT. Okay, so the protocol consists of three major things. First is Overledger Enterprise, which is more directed to enterprise solutions and businesses that want to access this multiple streams of data, multiple APIs, and they will pay for it, right? They will pay more than Overledger Community Network, which is served to be more open and more available for everybody. So Overledger Community Network is more around experimenting, building up more features, and it's more economical on cost and not exactly directed to enterprises and businesses. So a bit more on that is this kind of diagram where you see this enterprise version allowing these many use cases in healthcare, logistics, finance, IoT, and many other spaces of normal world usage, right? So these are all possible with enterprise version because it's going to be more resource intensive. You will get more resources into it and you will have to pay obviously more. And then the community version is more on adding more functionality, being more open to the network, more available, and they'll be building more improvements into this community version. And then obviously for enterprise versions, you will get access to both enterprise and community if you pay for them. All right, so coming back to Binance Research article, which is nicely summarized, there's also one more thing, which is quite competitive in my opinion. So the CQ they are introducing is a distributed search engine just like Graph, right? Which will be able to search and retrieve data for multiple blockchains that are inside the network, right? So I'm not going to go in more detail on CQ, but it is indeed a mere competition, strong competition, in fact, to Graph. So all in all, Quant is doing a lot of big stuff, and this, at least in my opinion, puts it on top of Graph. Like Graph is now inferior because Graph is only providing this search module only, but here they're talking about interoperabilities, APIs, MApps, or the OS, right? So there are a lot of things going into, so they're working as Google, Microsoft, Oracle, like all of this combined in a single commodity. And that's why you're seeing so much FOMO, right? So much liquidity now is untapped because of the listings. And these three things make it more willing for investors like us to invest. Moving on to gateway operators, we saw this here. So the Overledger network had these gateways, multiple gateways, and these gateways are operated by gateway operators. So just to give you an example of how this network will go about to get things off from scratch, right? So a gateway operator, for example, has an off-chain data, financial stuff relating to foreign exchanges, rates, and spreads, and then he serves or he feels that there's a need to sell this, right? So let's say this operator decide that it wants to sell this data for 1 quant for each day. Then whatever participants that's they're participating in the ecosystem will be able to access that data, and they can easily buy and consume, right? And whatever participant you are, right? If you're part of the ecosystem, you're good to go, right? You can access it. You just have to buy and consume. So it makes it available for any type of blockchain, any type of public API, any type of private API, for example, if you're into the network. And then they will be able to easily see, advertise, play with it, and you just have to pay the price to the gateway operator in terms of QNT. So that's a beautiful example of using Quant Network, right? Gateway operators, multiple ends that are accessing it, and there are big players into it, right? So moving on to the tokenomics, right? This was released, like this project did a public sale in 2018, but the company was founded in 2015, and 11 million were raised, and 9.9 has been sold, right? So as of July 19, 2021, 14.6 million QNT are in circulating supply. But I think this is a bit misleading. Let's go into the coin market cap and look into the circulating supply, right? Their Binance research says that around 16 point whatever were total 100% circulating supply, but that's not the case. Here in CoinMarketCap, the circulating supply is around 12 million, and the maximum supply is 14.6 million. They also did a burn on 2018, which was around 9.5 million in QNT. So the total supply became 14.6, where the company had 4.6 million and 9.9 around were available for the public. So if we want to even cross-check an Etherscan, well, there it is. It's this quantity, and it's been there since a long time. Nothing's changed. So they've burned this exact amount, and it's a bit unclear how much the company has right now, because if you burn and look at the total supply, which is exactly this supply, but is it exactly the same available for everybody? Because here the company has 4.6 around, but it doesn't make sense, right? 14.6 minus 4 million, it's not 12 million. So it's a bit unclear here, but this is what we have. So that's the tokenomics of QNT. And looking into more about inflation, there's no inflation. This is the exact amount, and there would be no more minted. Lastly, let's look at the team. And I'm just going to focus on the CEO. And the CEO himself is a great example, and kind of concludes the point, right? I should not go more looking into the team. It's just a CEO that's inspiring and has a really good background, like 20 plus years of experience, has worked with PwC, HSBC, EY, and various roles of the government, US Federal Reserve, Bank of England, European Commission, Chief of Information Security Officer in Link and MasterCard. And yeah, and he managed almost $6 trillion per year, right? That's impressive stuff. So I'm not going to go into the other team members, but I think this is just enough info to know that the team is good, the project is solid, and they're delivering it since 3 years, right? They're working on it. But make sure you jump when the time is right. You should not always FOMO in, because then it kind of makes an avalanche of losses, right? Always make sure if the project is very hyped, it's good, it's performing really good, the price is always a different matter. You should always invest with patience and for long-term gains. Well, let's talk a bit about why should you have QNT in your portfolio. Now, there's this Medium article that was showing the comparison of Microsoft's different product line and how they're growing from time to time. Even the sales of Oracle, they're just increasing in time, right? If you compare Apple Store and Google Play Store revenue, they're all growing, right? And it just kind of gives you this linear or exponential trend. And the quant has been doing it, right? You're seeing this linear trend and then an explosive growth, right? It's going to obviously cool off. But if you compare this, for example, with Microsoft, like in 2018, it was on 100, right? 2-3x. But stocks are usually less lucrative than crypto, I know, but it's just telling you the linear expansion, or even possibility of an exponential growth. So I do believe that it has the exponential growth potential, and it's working more like a solution that is similar to Microsoft, that are similar to TCP, that are similar to Oracle, similar to Google, right? It's all of it in a single place. So it makes it a very strong competition to a lot of projects in the crypto space. although it doesn't have a blockchain of its own, there's a QNT token, which is an ERC20 token. It's just blockchain-based tokens. They don't have a blockchain of itself. They don't actually need it, right? The OS doesn't have to be on a blockchain. The network doesn't have to be on a blockchain, right? So I think they're doing a tremendous job. If you don't have a need, just don't have it, right? So just to summarize, like this kind of question and why should you have this in your portfolio? So Quant CEO Gilbert Verdian stated that the potential to grow is uncapped, and they're changing and transforming the industries by creating a secure layer at speed. And their vision is to build a mass version of what they call the Internet of Trust, where value can be securely transferred between global partners, not relying on defunct internet security, but rather that of blockchain. So they are using different blockchains as an underlying interoperability fashion, right? So they are providing security in their M apps using multiple blockchains, and they're also making it interoperable. They're also introducing this CQ search, right? So there's like a lot of things in Quant, and it's definitely one of the projects to look upon in the future. So that leaves us with the final question, as in what should be the price prediction, an optimistic price prediction for Quant. So outside technical analysis, so there's totally outside technical analysis. It's just out of what they're trying to do, what I've seen in the past, big companies growing. Definitely $1,000 in the weeks or years to come. Although it has done almost 100x plus, it's going to cool off, but $1,000 is in the works, right? It's going to take some time, and $1,000 Quant means almost 10 billion plus. That's possible. I think in the times to come, in the weeks and years to come, it's very much possible. And even if it takes more time, it can even go beyond $1,000. But just to give an optimistic price with respect to time, I see it as at least $1,000 Quant. So that's pretty much it on my take for Quant. Let me know in the comments what you think about Quant, where can it go, and what are its competitors? What are you most excited about Quant? Let me know in the comments. So that's pretty much it from me. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe. Also make sure to hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one.